Sometimes a piece of media comes along that just reminds you of how much you love something. It could be a new movie from your favorite director or an album from a new artist that just hits you, pardon my millennial French, in the feels. Either way, the result is the same. You remember why you love the thing you loved in the first place. It just sparks that joy that only a thing that you're passionate about can deliver. Hello, friends, family, and otherwise sentient organisms. My name is Ruby, and Call of the Sea was that game for me. This game reminded me why I love the things I love. It made me say to myself, this is why I love gaming. And today, I'm going to show you why. So join me as we explore the mysterious and often breathtaking world of Call of the Sea.
Is the island I dreamed about? This can't be a coincidence.
So before we get too deep in the weeds, I'd like to talk a little bit about Out of the Blue as a studio. Out of the Blue was founded in 2020, and they are a new-ish game studio based out of Madrid, Spain. They are so new, in fact, that I couldn't find a Wikipedia article talking about them specifically. They are mentioned in the article for Call of the Sea, but that was about it. I did, however, find their website, which lists the two games that they've already released so far, which are Call of the Sea and American Arcadia, which I will absolutely be playing and reviewing sometime in the future. Out of the Blue is a hodgepodge of game designers that were fed up with the rise and grind culture of the video game industry, and decided to come together to create a place where creativity, storytelling, and above all else, work-life balance are paramount to their company culture. An excerpt from their website says, "We advocate for quality of life and respect for each and every one of us. We trust in the responsibility and experience of the team, and we work in an agile, goal-oriented way, enabling flexible schedules and work-from-home opportunities." Out of the Blue's focus is on games with coherent, story-driven narratives and intriguing stylistic appeal. And as we'll see, they have definitely hit the mark there. I'll talk about the relevant team members as each topic comes up, but let's go ahead and get into it. You, as the player, take on the role of Norah Everhart, art teacher. Norah has been afflicted with a strange genetic disease for the better part of her adult life, and it causes all sorts of problems. Most notably, it's left her bedridden for several years, with symptoms like fever, fatigue, and a nasty cough. But more than that, her affliction has left her marked with strange, black spots dotting her arms and legs. Upon her death, Norah's mother leaves her daughter a family heirloom, a broken, hand-carved music box. The box, which is more like a cylinder, octagon, music octagon, depicts a spinning mermaid when played. Somehow her husband, Harry, becomes convinced this item holds the key to Norah's illness and sets off on a journey around the world to find a cure for his long-suffering wife. Harry regularly writes to Norah, who finds his letters a periodic reassurance and comfort from her husband's long absence. But when his letters stop coming, she starts to worry about her dear old pal. Sometime after Harry's letters stop, Norah receives a mysterious package postmarked from San Francisco. The anonymous entity has left her a drawing of a mysterious island, some kind of three-tiered ritualistic dagger, and a picture of her husband with a key taped to the back of it, with the words, 74 miles east of Otahiti. With the package leaving more questions than answers, Norah determines to set out on her own to find Harry, or at least unravel the mystery of his disappearance. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, man, that sounds like the plot of a movie, you'd be right. It is the plot of a movie. Call of the Sea's plot is loosely based on a 1930s movie of the same name, where a one Lieutenant Commander Good travels to a tropical island in search of his long-lost friend who's mysteriously disappeared there. Speaking of Norah and Harry, let's talk a little bit about the voice acting in this game, which is impeccable. Cissy Jones is the voice of Norah Everhart. She lends this beautiful transatlantic accent to her character that's just the most, to say the least. Now, if you've been playing video games for any amount of time in recent years, chances are you've heard Cissy at one point in time or another. Some of her more notable roles include Delilah from Firewatch, Joyce Price from Life is Strange, and Sloane from Destiny 2. More recently, you may know her as Andreja from Starfield, or the Absolute from Baldur's Gate 3. Cissy is supported here by Yuri Lowenthal, who, according to Moby Games database, is credited with something like 375 different titles. Interestingly, Yuri is actually the voice of Peter Parker in most of the Marvel Spider-Man games, including Marvel's Midnight Sun. He's also the character Johnny from Final Fantasy VII Remake, and has more additional voice credits than you can shake a stick at. Both he and Cissy have been ingrained in the industry for many years, and because of their experience and talent, it just shines through here.
I never thought that this expedition would cause anybody's death.
Dear old pal, I know you won't ever read this letter, but I'm accustomed to writing you, and it comforts me in this strange place.
Why didn't you tell me the truth? Why did you do this to me?
There's so much raw talent oozing out of every single spoken syllable that it's no wonder that Norah and Harry come to life the way that they do.
Jeepers, a stranded ship.
The narrative is told mostly through environmental storytelling and expanded on through Norah's internal dialogue. As you explore each area, you'll uncover objects like a note written by some unstable crew member, or a broken bottle of wine in some closed-off chamber. Norah will comment on and try to make sense of the clues she uncovers through her understanding of the world around her. As the story progresses, Norah learns more about the island, its inhabitants, and their ancient traditions. Things that may not have made sense to Norah at the start become more clear the deeper she travels inland. I'll try not to spoil it, but the whole story is a real subversion of expectations. In an interview with Tatiana Delgado, the game's lead creative director, she said that Norah's story is different. This isn't a descent into madness for her, but instead, it's a rise to sanity. And what a refreshing take. Let me go on a tangent for a second. After Amnesia: The Dark Descent and games like PT, it seemed like every indie game studio in existence tried to recapture what made those games special, putting their main characters through hell and back, forcing them to dive deeper into madness, and almost invariably revealing at the end that, oh, none of that was real, you were just mentally ill the whole time. Which is a whole problematic trope in and of itself, but that's another video for another day. My point is, it's so nice sometimes to have a character that you love find some kind of peace in the end. Not everything has to be a tragedy. Not everything has to end in violence or bloodshed or like a horrible fire that killed your wife and kids and now you're some kind of tortured artist or something. And yes, I am talking about Layers of Fear. Anyway, back to the story stuff. Within the game's first couple of chapters, you'll find your first audio log. And at first, I was having flashbacks from BioShock. I was a little worried that these were going to be a major collectible. Personally, I think audio logs are kind of a relic of the past, where games didn't have a great way to express the underlying story, so they gave you an audio log to fill in the gaps and give you a little bit of a data dump. Thankfully, Call of the Sea doesn't do that. From Chapter 2 on, there is exactly one audio tape that you will find in each chapter, and that is it. They add a little bit of flair to the story, but they aren't critical for understanding the plot. They are, however, a nice collectible for completionists. Around the same time, you can start finding letters from Harry. They are in each chapter, starting at Chapter 2. It seems Harry never stopped writing to Norah, he just wasn't able to get his letters to the local post office from this dangerous, secluded, uncharted island. These letters serve as the primary exposition for Harry's story, and give you more context about what happened to Harry and his crew, as well as clues about what to do and where to go next. Considering all of that, the story is very well paced. Usually, you won't go more than 2 or 3 minutes without finding something interesting that pushes the narrative along. It only really stalls if you come across a riddle that you have trouble with, personally. But even in that situation, it feels more like you're living through Norah's life, coming up across an obstacle that realistically would take her time to figure out. Tough puzzles in this game actually serve to enhance the emotional bond you create with Norah and the world around her, rather than detract from the experience overall. I wouldn't call the ending so much of a twist as I would a rising realization, which I think is exactly what the creators were going for. If you're not exactly surprised with what's happening to Norah, you at least will be guessing about Harry and his crew. All in all, job well done.
I'm not really sure how this thingamajig works, or what to do with it.
Call of the Sea is by no means a complicated game. There's no HUD, there's no combat, there's no inventory to manage. You'll take no fall damage and encounter no enemies. Now, the only resistance here that you'll find are object-oriented and environmental puzzles that you'll be required to solve before moving forward. Call of the Sea is very reminiscent of games like Broken Sword or Myst, where most of the narrative is pushed forward by the player finding a solution to a puzzle or finding a hidden secret buried somewhere in the game. And I have to say, it's always a breath of fresh air to experience after coming from more action-oriented games like Assassin's Creed or whatever you kids are playing nowadays, like Roblox or something, I don't know. The primary game mechanic here is Norah's journal, which you pick up during the prologue. Norah is an artist and a chronic note-taker. She notes down everything she finds relevant. Ancient carvings, interesting facts, answers to solved puzzles, they're all noted down in her diary. The majority of the game is just walking around, drinking in the absolutely breathtaking visuals, and noting down everything you can click on until you're presented with a puzzle to solve. Generally, if you've poked around an area long enough, when you're challenged with finding a solution to a riddle, you've probably usually already collected everything you need. That's not to say the solutions are easy to find. There were a good few puzzles that left me stumped longer than I care to admit in a public video. But with time, perseverance, and maybe a game facts guide to help you out with the tough bits, you'll figure your way deeper into the island. Puzzles start out very simple at first. The first thing you come across is a door that requires a lever to open it. A piece is missing with the lever. Find the piece. Too easy, right? But the deeper inland you travel, the more complicated the solutions get. You may need to walk around and match symbols to the positions of a sliding combination puzzle, or use different shapes to depict different celestial constellations to move forward. Several sections are set as knowledge checks. You won't be able to move forward unless you have the right information. I do appreciate the puzzles are still very engaging even during a second playthrough. I love how interesting and interconnected everything is. Sometimes the puzzles can be just a tad obtuse, which stifles the pacing and makes the game go from fun, story-driven adventure to gorgeous, frustrating walking simulator as you traipse back and forth between different set pieces. However, that being said, it makes it all the more satisfying when you do find the solution. Like, yes, I did it! Now what? What's next? Before I wrap up this section, let me touch just real briefly on completion. This game was a joy to complete from start to finish. After finishing a chapter, you can replay it at any time, and there's a very handy tracker at the bottom of each chapter select screen that tells you exactly what you're missing. Each chapter has a 100% journal completion, a number of murals to investigate and discover, and a secret item in every section except for the prologue. Most everything can be collected in a single playthrough, though a couple of the secret items are, secret, and a bit hard to track down if you don't know where to look, or what you're even looking for. But all in all, completion was a fantastic experience. And honestly, I wouldn't mind completing this for another platform if I had the chance.
Oh my, this is so beautiful. What were these birds called?
From the first few moments of this game, you are bombarded by beautiful landscapes, superb lighting, and colorful illustrations. The developers have gone for a more stylistic art direction, opting out of photorealism in favor of a more artistic approach, a choice I believe will age like a fine wine. Seriously, the beauty of this game cannot be understated. At least 3 times per chapter, I found myself stopping dead in my tracks just to soak in the sheer beauty and wonder of this game. I found myself sitting at this stream for like 10 minutes just watching it. I'll go into this a little bit later, but it's not just the visuals. It's the sound design, it's the music, it's the color palette. It's the way this game makes you feel like you're really on a mystical, uncharted island. When I say that video games are a form of art, this is what I mean. The first thing that struck me after stepping off the boat into this first open area was, this game looks a lot like BioShock. Yes, I am aware that this is the second time that I've mentioned BioShock. I wondered if perhaps there was some kind of connection between 2K games and Out of the Blue, and, no. Not that I could find, actually. I did, however, find an interview that Gaming Bolt did with Tatiana. When asked how they landed on Call of the Sea's aesthetic, Delgado explains, "We were inspired by the strong visuals of games like Firewatch, The Witness, and Sea of Thieves. We wanted to create a beautiful place where people wanted to stay and enjoy spending hours solving puzzles and exploring every corner. I will say that Firewatch isn't the only game the studio took inspiration from. The underwater sections had a certain feel about them that I just couldn't put my finger on. After doing a little digging, I found that 2 of the 3D artists for this game also worked on Metroid Samus Returns for the 3DS, and if you squint really, really hard, you can almost see the same techniques used for the textures between both games. Now, I'm gonna nerd out just a little bit, because this is such a human element. As people, we learn and grow through every new experience that we have. As we grow, we develop and hone our craft and create our own unique style and techniques for how we create things. We take those skills and techniques with us wherever we go. And it's just so cool to see that here, even if it's in such a small way. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox now. But in any case, the inspiration they pulled from those games is just self-evident. And I think it was a really great choice, as it lends the game a certain surreal quality that complements and enhances the story it's trying to tell. I have never been much for music appreciation. It's not that I don't like music, it's just I really don't know what to talk about, or rather, how to talk about it without sounding like an absolute buffoon, but I will give it a go. The music in Call of the Sea is phenomenal. With sections of deep brass and soft strings, there's this very Indiana Jones meets Nancy Drew vibe that just keeps you hooked from start to finish. The music isn't a constant companion though. I appreciate that they use it sparingly to enhance and give weight to moments that the game wants to emphasize. Both the music and sound design are composed and delivered to us by Eduardo de la Iglesia. God, I hope I got that right. Whose work here, in my opinion, brings the whole experience together. Eduardo has been in the video game industry since at the very least 2002, working on games like the Commando series. More recently, he's branched out into composition and sound design with titles like Call of the Sea, The Last Kids on Earth and the Staff of Doom, and 2023's Lords of the Fallen, which now makes me really excited to play that because the music here is just amazing and I need more of it. But gaming isn't the only place Eduardo has excelled at. His work in several short films and music festivals has seen him nominated for the Hollywood Music Award in 2 categories, Best New Composer and Best Instrumental Music, as well as several other awards for songwriting and instrumental work. He also wrote and composed an original song for this title, labeled Dear Old Pal, which is a touching homage to Harry and Norah's life together, and captures the overall theme of the story very well. So, kudos on that. This man loves music, and I can feel that here with this soundtrack. Apart from just the music, the sound design here is hyper-realistic. Babbling brooks babble, chirping birds warble, crickets sing, insects buzz, leaves crunch, and grass rustles in the breeze. Even something as simple as raindrops falling on Norah's coat lend a sense of realism to this otherwise surreal experience. I just want you to close your eyes and listen to this scene for just a second. Just excellent. 10 out of 10 would listen again.
There it is. The sanctuary. So is this where you went, Harry? Was this your last stop?
I am usually not a completionist, but I ended up completing Call of the Sea in its entirety. It took me just about 16 hours and 2 full playthroughs because I forgot about chapter select before hitting new game. And it was an absolute pleasure the entire way through. The visuals, the music, the sound design, the engaging puzzles, and the interesting narrative, all of it was just a wonder to behold. I have no problem admitting that Call of the Sea was the best indie title that I played in 2023. And I played a lot of indie games. I am so excited to play American Arcadia and see what Out of the Blue has to offer going forward. If this first title is any indication, then I'd say that the studio has a very bright future ahead of them. and I will be watching and playing every game of theirs going forward, and hopefully you'll be here with me when I do. If you made it through to the end here, go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more cool indie titles. And as always, I'll see you again when the time is right. Insert YouTuber tagline here. Toodles.